Hey, it's TDA, and today we're playing some more Mindustry, where I continue my quest to actually complete the Serpulo campaign, but that should be a lot easier now. We have so many of these launch pads to get ourselves some resources, so let's get going, and let's see if I can keep things a little bit more neat and controlled this time around. Now, a lot of you warned against going to the nuclear production complex because it would be under attack non-stop, and well, you were not wrong. However, it is interesting that I've been able to pretty much ignore most of the attacks on the nuclear production complex, as well as, I don't know where it is, the salt flats over here. Mostly because it seems that they are doing just fine defending themselves, so I didn't actually have to deal with that. Also makes me wonder why the game is even telling me it's under attack if it's going to survive anyway, but you know, as long as I don't have to actively deal with it, that is fine by me. Now the real question is, where do we go next? I am inclined to go for, I don't know, maybe actually this zone over here, just so we can clear it out and make sure the salt flats are no longer under attack. It is actually a main mission. I'm probably not going to do all these random maps, mostly because that is just a lot of work. Maybe at some point I'll take out the enemy bases just to make sure that we can claim the planets under control. Depends a little bit on how much fun this continues to be. For now, let's just go to the atolls and make sure I don't have to worry about the salt flats anymore. I did redesign my starting base a little bit. As you can see, this was the previous version. I am now running 6 RTG generators, all fueled by thorium, so that's a massive amount of additional power compared to this version where I was running them on phase fabric. I still include the tier 1 and tier 2 flying units, so I can have some mining going on, as well as some construction, and all of that at a fairly low price. Of course, the tier 3 units do the same thing, but I think that's a little bit of a waste in terms of resources. Okay, there we go, and let's see what zone we end up this time around. There seems to be a lot of stuff already in the zone. The first wave is going to come in about 3 minutes. And whoa, okay, this is going to be interesting for sure. We actually have 2 locations where the enemy can come from, and if these guys are going to come from air, then I'm already in trouble. Okay, well, that's a thing, I guess. And well, given the fact that this already starts out with some anti-air production, or turrets, I should say, up and running, I am pretty sure that that's exactly what is going to happen. So that kind of sucks, honestly. Although I do get some thermal generators to start out with, so that's nice in terms of power production. We can actually place a couple more of them over here. Now, let's check out these bases. These are okay defended, so mostly air defense, honestly. So if I can just bring in some naval units, probably, that should not be too much of a problem. Same thing applies over here. We do have some, oh, this is actually mostly anti-air again. This is almost strictly anti-air, actually. There's a couple of ripples in here, but other than that, we should be able to just clear this out pretty easily with naval units. And this is actually the main base that seems to be defended with some ripples. That is going to be a little bit more work, but all in all, not too bad. Once again, the enemy is going to come from over here and over here down to the south. This is fairly deep water, isn't it? Yeah, it's going to be a massive pain in the neck to build my defense, because I'm pretty much going to have to defend everything, this entire island. Okay, well, let's get to it. Okay, so first things first, I'm going to set up some power with the cryogen generators over here, some thorium that I'm going to have to collect, for now at least, from the other maps. So this is where that will come in. And this is going to make sure I can import at least 6 per second. So that should be more than enough to fuel a couple of these generators. As well as probably, I should not forget that, my RTG generators that I have set up over here. I'm also going to need some of this titanium to actually make the cryo fluid. But all in all, this should prove a pretty efficient way to get my power up and running, I think. Okay, so that is a nice power surplus. We have some power storage as well. We also have only 1 minute before the enemy is actually going to fly in and harass us, but I think we should be in a pretty good starting position for now. Now, I definitely want to start on building units as quickly as possible. And again, we can do that because we have all these landing pads available now. And those should be able to supply me with pretty much all the materials I need without actually requiring all that much power, because I can fuel these things mostly from, well, if I want to, from these impulse pumps, which is definitely the most efficient way. But even if I didn't have power, I could just use the base pumps to do that. Okay, so how about this? I'm bringing in all the resources I need to produce all of these units over here. And the nice thing about the naval units is actually that we don't need as many as the different types of units as before. I do need to replace my ground facility with a naval facility, but other than that, this should work just fine. And it should allow me to produce tier 4 naval units, which are really, really strong. At least that's what I'm hoping, and that's what I gathered from the tooltip. I am going to bring in all those different resources. I'm actually not really producing anything over here except for a little bit of titanium. But remember, I am producing massive amounts on the other planets, so hopefully this should do the trick. Anything that I'm importing that is not being used by my base is going to go straight into my vaults in order to be used for example, building defenses. Well, the first wave was just a couple of tier 3 units, but yeah, that was actually not that easy to defend against because they were just sailing right past all my defenses. And as you can see, I started building some defenses over here, but it already passed those. Then I built some over here, it ran straight past those, etc, etc. So I ended up with towers all over the place. I guess that's nice for the next wave, but it is definitely a little bit frustrating that once again I won't really be able to control where the enemy units go, requiring me to kind of just build things all over the place. And oh boy, does it take long to build one of those tier 4 production units, and honestly that might be the biggest bottleneck on eradication, just getting this up and running. Well, it took me a minute, and honestly what I've realized is that these landing pads themselves are probably going to import more stuff than fits on a belt, and this is actually not that efficient. I have everything on a single belt flowing into my nucleus, but I am also trying to draw things from that along the way, and all of this is kind of congested in a lot of ways. So even though I have a massive amount of resources incoming, it is not necessarily as efficient as I was hoping it would be. The enemy waves, however, for the moment are still not that impressive, so we're not in any trouble, but there's definitely some things to consider moving forward for the next few levels. Anyway, that is nothing a secondary line of production won't solve, and this is hopefully going to help me make sure I actually get access to all my resources. Something else that's going to help out with my throughput is the fact that I now am actually producing some silicon locally. So now I have the base resources, lead and copper, as well as titanium and silicon in production here locally. So that should speed things up, I think. That also means that I can probably... No, I'm actually not going to funnel this into this belt over here. That is going to slow down my unit production a little bit, but I do need silicon for pretty much everything I need to build myself as well. So I do need to be conscious of that. How are we doing on power? Still 3k surplus, even though this thing hasn't kicked in yet, and that's going to take up 800 just by itself. So I am... Well, I'm not low on power, but I do need to keep an eye on that for sure. I'm also kind of running out of building space, and I haven't built that many defenses yet. It's just a couple of meltdowns along with some other random kind of defense. And I haven't been attacked a single time from the north yet, so I do also need to focus a little bit on some anti-air, I think. Oh man, there's a lot of things going on, and we don't have that much space to work with, which is honestly kind of cramping me. The thermal power patch is really nice, but honestly it's not going to do that much for me because it is only a trivial amount of power compared to what I need nowadays for my base. Also seems we graduated to double wave size now, and that is going to be a problem sooner rather than later as well. But look, my first tier 4 unit is now in production. Okay, so a little bit of metal glass production should help with that. So I can easily weave in some cyclones along with my base defense. I put in some waves because, you know, fire will always get to me. And then we're good to go. Now, actually, I checked out the tier 4 unit production. I didn't realize it takes 90 seconds just to build one of these, and that is assuming that you've already built the others. So it takes like 5 waves of enemy units just to produce a single one of these tier 4 units. Now, of course, they're going to be really, really strong, but you definitely do not want to underestimate how long it takes to get anything done like this. Okay, that is interesting. I just got the first wave from the north, and it turns out that it's also naval units. I was not expecting that. For some reason, I had in my mind that it was going to be air units exclusively, which is sort of a problem in and of itself, considering I have no ground defense here whatsoever. However, the way these units tend to behave is they are just going to sail all the way across here, maybe damage my factory a little bit in the process, and then just go right past my meltdowns anyway, so it's not really a problem, but I definitely wasn't expecting that. On the bright side, there's now a Sei in the way, or Sei, I'm not sure how to pronounce this once again, but look at that. That is one big boy of an enemy unit. Well, it's not an enemy unit, it's my unit. I'm going to put that unit to good use to start taking out the enemy base, but until I do, I also want to make sure I get in some Surge Alloy and Blast Compound over here, which actually means I should probably set this to something else because I'm importing it over here as well. So why not just more silicon? You can never have too much silicon. And yeah, this is going to ensure that I have a lot of ammunition going that I can start using towards upgrading my base defense. I also realized I can actually completely block off this particular a route, so forcing the enemy to take the long way around basically. And I can do that probably just by putting in some very lame copper walls. But if I do it like this, the enemy will be forced to take the long way around, and if I build some turrets over here, they can shoot at everything that comes in range. Okay, time to unleash my tier 4 unit upon the enemy, and let's see what it can do. I don't think you necessarily need to get that close, good. I mean, just fire away at the enemy already and start laying waste to their base. Can I just park it out here and will it just auto-shoot out of itself? I am gonna get myself killed, that's not a problem. But yeah, I'm just sieging the enemy while I am building my base. That's nice. So it's time to start building some very expensive turrets and unloading them. I do need to make sure I actually unload them, because otherwise this is not going to do much. There we go. Let's copy and paste that over there. And there we go, we have a foreshadow up and running that should be able to reach pretty much everything that attacks my base. And how are you going along? Well, just fine. It is still laying waste to the enemy base. I can probably park it a little bit closer as long as it's not... Oh, as I was about to say, as long as it's not in range of any turrets, it should be fine. I definitely don't want to get my units damaged any more than it needs to. This is going to take a while, especially considering there are actual menders in the mix over here apparently. But taking these out should not take too long. Okay, so a little bit of a status update. I was actually attacked from the north and the enemy units just flew right into this little like haven over here, starting to shoot at all of my stuff. Wasn't that big of an attack, but still quite annoying. So what I've done is over here add in a couple of lancers just to make sure I got rid of those units. I also noticed that I wasn't actually powering my foreshadow, so they weren't actually helping me at all. But now they are powered and set up with ammunition. So this should cover a large part of my defense for the moment. I also have 2 of these Sei units now, with the 3rd one in production. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job at making progress in this level. Now, with the remaining resources that I have, I want to make sure I add in a couple of melts over... I'm actually wondering where I should put them. I could put them over here, because the enemy units are going to come through here. And if I put them here, that does put any attackers in range of the foreshadows as well. That makes this a little bit vulnerable, but not entirely sure if there's actually units going to come through there. I guess it doesn't hurt to be safe. I'm just going to put down a couple of meltdowns over here to add into the defense. And this is actually going to help me defend against air units as well. So, you know, better safe than sorry. And I am going to add number 3 to the mix, just because I can. Meanwhile, my long-range bombardment over here is working pretty effectively. Try not to get yourself killed, TDA, and as you can see, I am slowly starting to take down this base. As soon as the power drops, I think that is the requirement I need to do. Yep. Now I should be able to just directly target the enemy base. Let's see if I can actually reach it though, because I don't know. Let's find out. Yeah, looks like we'll be able to do that just fine. It is a little bit annoying that they really want to move, even though they don't have to. I mean, just shoot at it from max range already. You don't need to be fancy about it, just get things killed. Okay, that base should be going down really soon, and yep, that is one base down, 2 to go. As a side note, I did actually add in some pyrite production because I wanted some more power, and well, you can see the result here. Now I have the pyrite, I can actually also very easily add in a couple of ripples. Now I do want to make sure that I use the proper gates in order to make very sure that I prioritize my power over actually fueling my defenses. Because my defenses are going to be completely demolished if I don't do that. There we go. And that should allow me to start working on some additional long-range defense. Meanwhile, I'm going to park my ships right outside the enemy's door as well. I just realized I can't actually get in here with my naval units. That is going to be a problem, considering I only have naval units. On top of that, if you notice over here, there's a deep portion of sea which my ground units can pass, but I will need that area in order to cross that area in order to get to this base. There's no other way into this base, is there? So that means I either need to build flying units or at least something that can fly and then touch down again, which I guess brings us back to that Vela unit that I was talking about earlier. That said, that's not too big of a problem because I can just finish the ships I'm building over here. Actually have number 3 up and running already, so that's really nice. I can take down some of the anti-air defenses that I can reach from over here, and then I can just start building Velas over here by replacing this building with a ground unit building. Now, since Novas do need some different type of default materials, I do need to rework my belts a little bit, but honestly it's not that big of a problem considering I just need to bring in some lead. I already have the titanium, so that is the only change. Now it's gonna take a minute because we're first going to need to process all of this before I can start working on my Velas, but we're not that much in a rush as long as we can just hold out. And holding out is getting easier and easier as I'm adding more and more defenses to the mix. Some more meltdowns over here should make that a lot easier as well. That's a lot of easy in a couple of sentences, but you get the drift. In the meanwhile, I'm softening up the enemy defenses by taking out their initial defensive lines and especially the anti-air, so I can land safely over here once I do get my Velas up and running. Now, where the bleep are you guys going? I mean, you're supposed to be attacking in this direction, not in whatever direction. Oh yeah, you're going to go straight in there, are you? Okay. Then I guess I'll just have to block you out of there with some simple copper walls. Hopefully that will be enough to kind of redirect them where I want them to go. And just in case, a couple of meltdowns should do the trick as well. What's interesting is that I'm now on wave 13 and I haven't seen a single flying unit so far. It's just been all these naval units that are honestly not posing much of a problem whatsoever. Let's see, how are you guys doing? You are kind of out of range of everything. Well, no, actually, as you just showed me, you can still reach something. Let me select this one, maybe park you over there. And then I think it is time to start moving you. Well, maybe you can reach something from over here. Let's try, but otherwise I'm just gonna move my naval units to this top base over here because that needs clearing out as well. Something that is interesting to note is that in the previous levels, the enemy bases used to actually produce units themselves as well, but that doesn't seem to be the case in this particular level. Not that I'm complaining, because that would have made everything a lot more complicated, even more than it already is. But it would make my life a lot harder if that was actually the case. So, you know, that now I can just sit here and shoot at the enemy without any problem whatsoever. Alright, note to self, if you build another factory, make sure it's actually set to the correct thing, because I was making daggers rather than these Novas, and that's just not actually going to do that much, because it's just going to produce, I guess, a single tier 4 unit. Do I have that unlocked? Let me double check. No, I don't actually have that unlocked. I could make a scepter. Oh, might as well unlock it. There we go. I guess I am also going to produce one of those. Oh look, we're going to get some air attacks after all. These are just tier 1 units, so that's not going to do much, but yeah. I'm probably going to have to add in a couple of cyclones here just in case. Okay, That should take care of that. That's another saying coming, and let's bring that along to the enemy base over here, where I now have a total of 6 of these units. So that should not make it very hard to take everything out over here. Okay, there we go. We should have the second base going out pretty quickly now. There we go. And, oh, actually, this base is too fortified on anti-air defenses, vitally using air units. Okay, there's 2 strategies. Drop ground units here to attack from this place. That's exactly what I was planning. Otherwise, drop some naval units here to launch a surprise attack. Dropping units. Yes, that is actually a thing that you can do. I completely forgot about that. The game's telling me to produce some megas. So those are the flying tier 1, 2, 3... support units. I guess that's one way of doing it, dropping naval units in the back of the enemy base. But honestly, I'm just gonna stick with the Vela plan, because that is exactly with the other strategy that I was being told to use. Can these things actually fly? Because causes fire repairs enemy capable of flight. Yes, okay. So I'm gonna go for the initial tactic that it suggested rather than the one it's now telling me to do, mostly because I have already everything set up to do that. Actually interesting, is this whole attack level now just halted, waiting for me to build these megas? Because that means I pretty much already won. If that is the case, then that's both an interesting mechanic, because I don't think we've had that happen at all so far, with the exception of like the first few tutorial missions. But yeah, I mean, I'm not complaining. If that makes it even easier to win this level, that works for me. Oh boy, but I do really hope that I didn't mess things up and that I can actually export my units in this area, because otherwise it's just going to be stuck in there. Actually, I keep forgetting you can just twist and turn a building if you need to, and there we go. Now it is turned, and I'm 100% sure I can actually have my units exit the building. Yeah, we actually get a Guardian wave on a level where I'm supposed to be attacking. That's interesting. And we are actually still getting attacked, so even though I have this thing sitting up here, did I just pour in the next wave? That was not what I wanted to do. I thought the button over here meant that would be a way to kind of skip forward, not necessarily trigger the next enemies. Anyway, I guess we'll be fine. I mean, we are taking care of the enemies pretty easily, and as long as I can use my tier 6 units, not tier 6 units, my 6 tier 4 units, 7 now actually, yeah, we should be in no trouble whatsoever. I should probably move them a little bit more centrally, so it's easier to put them in the place where they need to go in the end. Would you look at my single scepter that I accidentally produced? Well, I guess you're going to have to hold down the fort, buddy. Okay, that is 1 Vela up and running, and the second one in production, and as soon as I have 2, I'm just going to go attack, because they can heal each other, and I think we should be just fine. Okay, there we go. I have 2 of these Velas now up and running. I don't think they can attack while flying. I'm not entirely sure, honestly. How do I put you down? Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay. Now, what is your range? I suck at counting blocks, but I guess you're not firing, so... Oh! Okay. I mean, I've seen lasers before. I was just not expecting this. This is brutal, man. I mean, this is just ripping the enemy base apart. And remember, these are just 2 units. Look at this. Half the enemy base is on fire, and I haven't even started to attack them, really. I think we'll be fine, like I said. Well, it almost feels like cheating with these units, because they are doing so much damage, and they are non-stop repairing each other as well. So as long as I don't overextend too much, you can see they're getting damaged, but not that much, honestly. And if I just withdraw for a moment, you can see the little triangle of healing over here. It is quite awesome, honestly. And yeah, just sit here for a moment and I'm back on full health, and I can just walk straight back in and start barraging the enemy again with my lasers. And once I do that, it's not going to take that much work to get everything going, and I just need to get myself through this shield. Can I do that? The shield is actually holding up a lot better than I was expecting it to. Let's make sure I take out a lot of that power supply as well. There we go. Let's withdraw for a moment. How are we doing on health? Did I actually lose one of them? Yeah, I did. I was overextending there for a moment, but I did want to just try to see how far I could take it. Well, I do have to interrupt my attack for a moment because we have a Guardian wave coming in, and I don't think we're going to have too much of an issue dealing with that, but let's just make sure. I also really like that the enemy is attacking from different directions, but... Okay, the enemy just got deleted there thanks to my tier 4 units. Okay, anyway, I'm back firing lasers at the enemy, I guess. We are making a pretty hefty dent in the enemy defenses, and I think the nucleus might actually just burn down. Can we check its health? Seems not, but yeah, there's not much left over here other than a couple of cyclones and a couple of ripples, but honestly, that is just it. Okay, so 4 of these should definitely be enough to take out the enemy nucleus. It's taking a minute. Honestly, I can't even see if it's dead yet. It should be pretty much dead, right? I mean, we're firing a whole bunch of fellas at it. Oh, actually, I was about to say there might be another one over here, but that does not seem to be the case. And voila, we have another sector captured. The nice thing about playing a level like this is that it takes some time, and that means I was able to gather up a lot more plastinium and silicon and things like that. So let's unlock the Tetrative Reconstructor. That is going to allow me to build, I guess it is tier 5 units? These are actually surprisingly cheap to unlock. I mean, Surge Alloy and Phase Fabric doesn't really come in large amounts, so don't get me wrong, this is still relatively expensive. But all in all, it feels like this is fairly doable. I'm just gonna focus on unlocking the tier 4 units first though, just to kind of keep a sensible way of doing this. But look at this, Omuras, Corvus, Reigns, yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. Most importantly, taking this zone now means the salt flats are completely safe. Look at that, there's no enemies that are going to attack the atolls either. So all in all, this is going to make my pop-ups with all of these attacks going on a lot easier because they don't dare attack me now. Oh look, another naval level. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure which one we are going to go for next. If you have any preference in terms of zones you want me to take on, let me know. I do record a little bit in advance, but at this point I'm just kind of clicking random levels that I come across because we want to finish all of them. And I do have to say, this campaign has a lot more levels in it than I thought. It definitely has more levels than the Erekir campaign. And that's not even counting all the random levels that you could do along the way. I'm not complaining, it's just a little bit surprising. I thought they would have been approximately equal in length. But let me see, if I look at the sectors, 1, 2, 3? It only says 3 to unlock, but I definitely have more levels than that to go. Well, anyway, I don't know exactly how it's supposed to work. I mean, there's 3 of them for... yeah, I think there's at least 5 of them left. There's a couple of them locked as well underneath other zones, so yeah, not entirely sure. But anyway, if you're still here, you are awesome, and I do hope to catch you in the next one.